Hey guys, Isaac here, and welcome to the Smithy, where ideas are forged, sharpened, and put to the test. Whenever there's a deep discussion, bold opinions, or just good old-fashioned laughs, we'll fire up the forge and shape the conversation. So please grab a seat and let's get to work.
Alrighty.
So episode 4, jump right in.
Number 4.
I have no idea what the title of this episode is.
This could be like first episode.
Yeah, total callback to episode 1, so that's fine. But
it's our monthly anniversary.
has it been? It's been
over
more than a month.
Yeah, just
2-month anniversary.
2-month anniversary.
Something like that. It's been 8 weeks, so I know that. All right, man. How you doing? You doing well?
Doing good. It's been an interesting weekend. A lot going on this weekend. Went to the Phil Wickham concert at our church.
Okay.
So
Phil Wickham's sick.
yeah,
I like his music. I definitely have a good chunk of his songs in my worship playlist.
Mm-hmm.
And you said Cody Carnes was there. Also good.
Now that we're on like audio, I think I want to make sure.
That's fine. It's probably like Brandon Lake or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe not. Anyways, I mean, Phil Wickham was the header of the concert, so good, man. Yeah, you've been busy at work too, huh? Got a lot going on.
Yeah, no, I think Friday I pulled an all-nighter.
Gosh. That's awful. I cannot operate on zero sleep.
I manage.
I can like stay up all night, but the next day I will not be productive.
Yeah, no, it's true like that. I think what happened, like, I was just trying to get something to be able to ship out on Saturday, so I worked all night to try to get it done.
I'd meet that deadline.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
But, yeah, it really messed up my sleep schedule, because then I slept from like 6 a.m. to 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
Last night?
Yesterday.
Yeah, and then last night you were up late too.
Yeah.
Dude, you're screwed. You gotta go to bed at like no later than midnight tonight.
Yeah, I plan on doing that so I can wake up at 5.
Oh my gosh, that's so disgusting.
Gotta get that like CEO hours.
CEO hours? You're not even the CEO.
Yeah.
5 hours? Dude, that's criminal. You gotta get at least 6. Go to bed at 11, and then you can wake up at 5. So we'll wrap up here early.
That's the plan.
But you gotta make sure you get this episode out.
This is your third job, Isaac.
Yeah, exactly. That you don't get paid for. Yeah,
but yeah, how are you doing? How's your weekend?
Yeah, weekend was good. So it was productive. I have lab for school next week on Thursday, which I think is my last lab of the semester. So that's exciting. We have about a month left in the semester, so we're closing up pretty soon. But because of that, I have to like flex some hours for work. So I did some work over the weekend. That's what I was doing before this earlier. And then also had to update the budget, of course, because that's my job. I try to do it every weekend, but I've been slacking, so had to catch up a little bit.
Mr. Budget.
Yeah, you know. Go check out our last episode if you haven't already. And then what else did I do? I started a new book today, Godly Disciplines. You know that book, right? I think you recommended that book to me. Or Disciplines of a Godly Man, that book.
Right. One of these books is right there.
Sitting up here somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read like the first 2 chapters. It was good.
Yeah, no, my favorite part is when it goes through like the different men of the Bible and it uses them examples of like some disciplines we can take from them, especially from King David. So
yeah, I haven't gone there yet. But
right there, Disciplines of a Godly Man by Hughes.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else.
Interesting part is that's actually not my book. I borrowed it and I forgot to give it
quote
back.
unquote borrowed it. Just long-term borrowing. That's all. Yeah. Then church this morning, of course, and yeah, pretty chill weekend. Oh, baseball season started, so I started watching some baseball. T-Mobile actually had a deal where you can get MLB TV for free for the season.
Oh.
So I got that, and now I can watch like almost all the games for free, which is pretty sick.
Dude, if there's any Cubs games playing, just let me know. I'll watch with you.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I have to look at their schedule, but yeah. So I was yesterday when I was working. Miriam and I went to Bold, which is like local coffee shop, and I was just really bored working, so I just put on a baseball game. I was like watching baseball, and I did that on Friday too at work, actually, also. But it was later in the day, and like pretty much everyone is gone, and I was like working a little extra. And I was like, okay, I need to lock in. Like, I was really distracted. So, like, I had this game playing as, like, in the background, you know? So it's like you have something in the background going so it helps you focus.
I do that all the time, too. Like, for some reason, my brain, I just have to have something in the background and I can focus, like, heavily. I don't know why. Like, even when I play video games, I'm always watching TV. It's a problem I have.
Just, like, extreme ADHD.
Seriously.
Baseball is at least like pretty slow. Yeah. Like it's not a really fast-paced game, so it's not like constantly grabbing your attention. Like, you know, maybe football or something, or basketball, I guess.
The funny thing is, I can still like keep track of what's going on. And I had a coworker ask me, "He's like, man, how do you do this? Like, you're able to both watch TV and remember exactly what's happening and work at the same time."
ADHD.
Yeah, I feel like laughing at different times while working.
Oh man. But anyways, yeah. So let's go ahead and jump into the content. So we're changing things up a little bit from what we've been doing the last 3 episodes. So the last 3 episodes have been mainly topical conversations, specifically around like different relevant topics to Christians. And this week we are going to jump off the deep end and go political. We're not going to get into like, you know, crazy politics, and we're actually not really discussing federal level politics or like national level politics. I think there's enough people talking about national level politics, so we don't need to jump into that scene, at least not yet.
Yeah.
Maybe down the line, we'll see. But so today we're actually going to be talking about the Florida Senate District 19 Republican primary. And this caught my attention from like a sample ballot that I got in the mail. Mm-hmm. And it threw me off because I had no idea this was going on. And so I was like, well, I would like to know more about what's going on. And this podcast is a great excuse to go and learn more about it and then talk about it. And plus, it's probably, you know, I'm sure people who listen to this will also not know much about what's going on in this election. And then selfishly, I also enjoy politics and like just, you know, the world of politics and culture and all that. So, so you graciously agreed to the idea of talking about this for this episode. And so,
well, I mean, I've always loved talking about politics to you at times. So
yeah. Yeah. Do you, I mean, you've lived in Florida longer than I have. So have you caught up or like kept up much with like Florida politics or like local politics?
Once in a while. Whenever we went through like an election, I always make sure I research.
Yeah.
So like, especially the judges, I know I research around here and stuff like that. So for local wise, like a lot of the local like Florida stuff. That like it always is lumped in with federal elections.
Yeah.
That I kind of keep track of.
Yeah, I guess the big ones I've followed somewhat. I mean, I've only lived here for like 2.5 years, so there hasn't been that many like big elections since I've moved here.
Yeah.
The only big state election, I guess the highest level state election was the gubernatorial race like shortly after I moved here. And so I just, you know, I was like, DeSantis? All right, I like him. I voted for him again.
Wow, that was DeSantis, I guess, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was 2022.
Dude, I can't believe I've been here about 7 years.
Yeah, you're old, man.
Yeah, 2018, 2019. So here in Florida.
So I keep track of like national level politics and news and stuff. But even some international news, and some state news, but definitely not at like the city or like local municipality level.
Yeah, no.
Which technically this still is not that. It's state level, but it's relevant to our municipality, I guess. So.
Oh, I mean, it's always important to keep track of like also your local government too, because you are paying them your taxes. Well, I guess we don't really have state tax here in Florida, but
you got sales tax,
some taxes that go into
property taxes, but we rent, so we don't pay property taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you guys, you participate in a small business, so you guys pay
business taxes.
Business tax, yeah. So
state of Florida, but yeah, Florida with taxes is pretty interesting. Like even our groceries is zero tax.
Yeah, most of them for sure.
Like, man, I was like, side tangent. I was at Costco the other day.
Of course.
Buying a bunch of fruits and vegetables, and I only had like $100 limit.
Yeah.
And or $110. And I like, everything came up to like probably $104. And I was afraid for taxes. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. So I like full just faith into the checkout. If I had to put a vitamin back, I would have, because I just had cash.
Like, actually, can you take that one off, please?
I was getting ready for the shame and embarrassment. But,
can you take the 36 pack of beers off of my?
But after like went through the whole checkout, taxes were like $1.
Dang, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
After $100.
I'll look at my receipt every once in a while, and I'll like look at the taxes, and it's like 0,000, and then it's one of them has some taxes on it. Yeah, and then we have like the tax holidays and stuff like that for like hurricanes or schools or I don't know, other stuff. 4th of July. We did have I think we either had or have one coming up, an arms tax holiday, so you can get like ammo tax free or like buy a gun tax free or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, DeSantis does it a lot, even for gas during COVID, like a gas tax holiday.
Yeah, I remember that. And then I think I heard DeSantis float the idea of removing property taxes from, I don't know if it's everywhere or just like residences. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. So, but anyways, so I will say though that this conversation isn't completely divorced from like Christianity and faith, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't want to jump like too far into this, but I do think that, as believers, well, the order of this does not signify anything. So in terms of importance, but I mean, as Americans, we have a civic responsibility to participate in elections, right? We're a republic. And so we're not a democracy. We're a democratic republic. Yeah. And so part of that means that we are responsible for engaging in elections, right? That is the common citizen's responsibility, is to participate in elections. And in order to, responsibly participate in elections, you have to be educated in what is going on, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, you could blind vote and just like, have a party affiliation and just vote for
red,
everyone.
Baby.
Yeah, just vote for everyone with the R next to their name and call it a day.
But you can't do that with actually local stuff, because there's sometimes either independents that are running that you might like.
Yeah.
Judges don't have ours.
Yeah, they don't list their political affiliation there.
And that's where you have to do research, because you got to make sure you pick the right judges that rule correctly.
Yeah, or you have some races where they just don't even, like, even if they're not an independent, they just don't list, like, or, okay, no. If you have, let's say, like 3 people campaigning for the same spot, but they're all Republicans, you're like, okay, well, I don't know which one is the best, right? Yeah. So I've been in that situation too, where I don't know any of them, and I was like, all right, so I just pick one.
Do you just pick the name that sounds the coolest?
Yeah, I don't know, something like that, I guess. But I don't want to, be that person. I'd rather know who I'm voting for.
Yeah.
I think I was a little better in the 2024, elections.
I saw you at the poll.
Oh yeah. I forgot. We saw each other at the polling place. That was so funny. But yeah, okay. So as Americans, we have, a civic responsibility, but also as like Christians too, one of the one of the benefits of living in America is the fact that it is a democratic republic and that we have say in what happens, at the different stages of federalism.
Yeah.
So you got local level, you got, county, state, federal level, etc. And that's like one of the ways in which we can push for Christian morality and Christian policies in the American political scene.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think I've heard it before where Christians and people of the church will be like, we shouldn't be involved in politics, or, I'm an independent. I don't have any, political affiliations or whatever. And I don't vote or anything like that. And it's like, well, no, I don't think that that's the right route to go. I think it is our responsibility to make sure that we are putting people in office who are going to protect Christian values, who are going to push for Christian values, etc.
A perfect example of like why as Christians, like, we should be more involved in local politics and just politics in general. Make sure it doesn't run our life first, because you can get into a slope where you go too much to the extreme and you let politics run your life, and you care too much, and it ruins your train of thoughts at times. But back when Christianity was forming, back in Rome, like at the start of it, Christians being persecuted all the time, but you could saw as Christianity grew, Rome changed with it, because Christians started like changing their local leaders too. They started having more Christian judges, and that would create more freedoms and more safety for Christians in Rome. So like you can see that like as Christians were growing, as Christianity was like really exploding, so was Rome's like geopolitical like ideologies was also changing in times, because Christians had more of influence.
Yeah, that's a good point. Great historical connection. The significance of our involvement in civic duty and responsibility and engagement and all that. And so, all right, we'll save the rest of that conversation for another episode. But for this episode, so let's jump into specifically the District 19 Republican primary. And so I want to go through like the cascade of why we're having this primary, because it's like it's like a domino effect, right? So Mike Waltz, he was a representative for not District 19. I don't remember which district. I think it was Florida's 6th district for the U.S. Congress, House of Representatives. Okay, so Mike Waltz, he was the representative for that district. He got moved, and if I missed anything, let me know. But he got moved to Trump's national security advisor. So he got called up to that. Speaking of Mike Waltz, before we move on, did you hear about like the controversy around Mike Waltz from like this past week?
Oh yeah, how he was the one reporter was actually let into a text chat.
Yeah,
I mean, like honestly, whoever runs that text chat, because it's probably not even Mike Waltz, it's like one of his aides or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, maybe. I mean, it's his account on his phone.
They run off. It's like the Congress Twitter accounts.
Oh, that's true.
Except for Trump, we know that he does his, but but like a lot of like Twitter accounts for congressmen has someone else running the actual stuff for it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So it was probably like a mistake were made. I don't know why it's blowing up too much. I mean, just.
Well, the controversy is that they like leaked classified.
Yeah,
they were sharing classified quote unquote information in a non-secure, non-government affiliated text thread, which was Signal.
Yeah,
but then Tulsi Gabbard was like, no, there wasn't any classified information discussed in there. And then I keep seeing articles out where people are like, oh, well, here are the receipts, and we'll let you decide if anything classified was discussed. And it's like, that's not how it works.
No.
People can't just be like, oh, that looks classified, so it's classified. It's like, no, the government, the DOD and like DOD affiliates classify information. It's not, well, no, I guess just the DOD classifies information, right? So,
yeah.
So you can't just be like, I can't just read it and be like, oh yeah, that's classified. Because I don't have that authority.
Exactly. And also my hot take on that one is the reporter that like was added in by accident. If he was really caring so much about national security, he should have just booted himself off the chat. Like,
yeah.
Like he was acting like, oh, it's so scary. He was like, if you really thought that, then you should have just literally kicked yourself out of the chat and just be a good American citizen. But
yeah. Well, he's a journalist from the Atlantic. So,
yeah.
All right. So Mike Waltz gets called up to the National Security Advisor for the Trump administration. And then, there was a vacancy in the U.S. House of Representatives for Florida. So now Randy Fine, he is the senator for District 19.
State senator?
State senator, yep, for District 19 in Florida. Or District 19, so that includes like southern and central Brevard County. So you got like Grant, Palm Bay, Melbourne, parts of Merritt Island, Cape Canaveral, and Cocoa. And then I'm sure there's some other municipalities in there that I missed. So Randy Fine's running for that to fill Mike Waltz's seat. And then, so that triggers another vacancy in the Florida State Senate.
Yeah.
So that's the election that we're having. That's on our ballot. And then, however, there is a member of the Florida Florida State House of Representatives, that is campaigning to fill that spot. So she submitted a letter of resignation. And so now there's another open seat in the Florida House of Representatives, and then there's another election going on for that. But that's in District 32.
And then whoever wins that one, there's another election inside that county. Just like the Russian
maybe, yeah,
effect.
actually it's possible. Well, no, because none of them are. I was looking over who's running, and I don't think any of them are like city councilmen or anything like that. But it's like,
it's not hard to like see that though. That could happen because in politics, like you just want to go advance to the next level,
right? Yeah, you're always trying to move up, essentially. So I was like, that's why when I started reading about this election, I was like, oh, it's probably pretty simple, no biggie. And then I was like, article after article after article. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot going on here. Like, I didn't realize how juicy this story was.
So you're saying the reason why this all happens because Trump just picked a lot of Floridians.
One Floridian. One, Mike Waltz. That was it.
Yeah.
Although he also pulled Marco Rubio.
But that one's a little easier because that's picked by DeSantis.
Yeah,
for the temporary.
He's a senator. Yeah.
So there's a lot of Florida talent, though, that he has used in this cabinet. So,
were you tracking the Senate race at all, or not the Senate race, the U.S. Congress race for Randy Fine?
Yeah, I watched a couple of videos today. I mean, they're going to be voting probably tomorrow, right? We're not going to be voting at all on that because it's happening.
Oh, so the election. So the date that I saw originally was April 1st.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the election, but that's actually the primaries.
Oh, okay. Just Randy is like the most boosted up guy. Because they're
yeah. Okay, so I think he's the only one running on the Republican side.
Yeah. And
then there's only one. Oh, no. Okay, I'm mixing things up now. I think April 1st is the election, the general election for Florida, or no, for the U.S. House of Representatives.
Yeah, federal.
So that's Randy Fine's race.
Mm-hmm.
So that's April 1st. The other election that's on April 1st is the Republican primary for the person that's going to fill Randy Fine's seat.
Mm.
And then also Debbie Mayfield's seat, who's leaving the Florida House of Representatives.
And we get to vote on that one because I think we are in the district, right, for the...
only for Randy Fine's seat. That's the only one we can vote in. So District 32, which is Debbie Mayfield's district, that she resigned from that position, that's like Northern Brevard.
Yeah.
So you got like Viera, Rockledge, and some other cities up north. So we don't get that because we live in
West Melbourne.
Yeah, so we're a little farther. We're too far south to participate in that one,
Mm-hmm.
which took me forever to like tracking all of that because I thought April 1st was like the election for everything, and I was like, oh no, that's actually not the case.
Such an awesome a date to use.
I know.
April 1st.
Yeah,
the election's just over.
so ironic. None of the votes on that day are going to count. April Fool's Day. Just kidding.
Come back next week, April 7th.
Yeah. So I think the actual general election, so whoever wins that primary for the Florida Senate, the general election will be June 10th, I believe. And there's only one Democrat candidate who qualified, so there's no primary for the Democrats.
Yeah.
And then Florida is a closed primary state, so only people who are in the Republican Party, registered Republicans in Florida in the whatever district can vote in that election.
Yeah.
Which is why I got a ballot, because you boys are registered Republican. Right?
Let's go. I gotta check my mailbox for my ballot then.
Yep. So if you had any question about my political bias, everyone knows what it is now. So
who'd you vote for in 2024?
Donald Trump. I have no problem answering that question. All right. So anyways, I brought up the Randy Fines election just as like, I thought it was interesting because that kind of delves into like national politics a little bit.
Yeah.
But one interesting thing that I read is that the person running against him, his name is Josh Whale. Unfortunate, his name is also Josh. But he's running
Joshes in this area.
Yeah, I know. But he's running for the Democrats, and he reported raising over $10 million for his campaign, which is like crazy. Whereas Randy Fines only raised $1 million. So people are like, oh, this race is going to be a lot tighter than like, what people were expecting.
Yeah.
But an interesting thing that I read, and this came from Politico, said that a lot of Whale's campaign funding came from outside of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, dude, that's wild. Like people, and I think it's kind of indicative of like kind of where the liberal Democratic Party stands right now, is like they're trying to like grab everything they can after Donald Trump won the presidency. I mean, because we got the House, we got the Senate, we got the Supreme Court, we got the presidency.
We got everything right now.
So we're stacked right now. Mm-hmm. Kind of, in a way. And so they're just like clawing at everything they can get. So they see this opportunity to like potentially grab another seat in the House, and like, dude, let's throw all your money at this guy, and like hopefully we can get him in. Yeah,
that's not uncommon though for that tactic, because we've seen that like so many times throughout like the recent history, especially during the 2024 elections. I think it was a senator in Texas. Mm-hmm. Actually, I think it was Ted Cruz's race.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and he still won.
But the Democrats were like heavily flooding money into it. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's common. I believe it for sure. It's just like, this just seems like such a random race, and they're like dumping tons of money into it. And then Randy Fine, on the other hand, only raised $1 million, like 10 times less than the other guy. And you're like, bro, what are you doing? And he's just trying to run on the coattails of like Trump's victory, essentially. Yeah. And like the district is a very heavily red district.
Yeah, I think it's like one of the reddest.
Yeah, I think so. It was like Flagler County and like some other counties too.
Like next to Brevard is like one of the reddest, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently this county not Brevard, but not District 19, District 6. Yeah. Voted like 30 points in favor of Trump, which is crazy. Like not even like just a spanking,
Just look at the map. It's just complete red. There's no blue spaces at all.
Oh yeah. I remember what was it? I think it was it 2024 or maybe it was 2020, where it was like a map of all the counties in Florida that voted, like what party they voted for. Mm-hmm. And it was only like 2 counties in Florida that voted blue, and the rest were red.
Yeah, no.
It's like, oh my gosh.
I think it was this year, or 2024. I forgot which counties it was.
It's probably like Miami-Dade and Orlando.
I thought Miami got switched to red.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Well, I have to take a look again at the map.
Maybe I might be thinking of the 2020 election.
I was shocked though, just seeing like straight up like one of the biggest like blue cities in Florida got switched to red.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah,
for sure. Especially with, well, we have voter ID laws in Florida actually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the legal immigration wouldn't really help the Democrats in that space, but but I mean, on Randy Fine's side, I was like, dude, you can't just like hope that the ecosystem is going to bail you out, right?
Yeah.
And he did get endorsed by Trump, so he's probably just hoping that like Trump is going to, pull his weight through his election. And gosh, if he lost, dude, crazy upset.
That'd just be egg on his face. He should have tried harder.
It would be. It should be the end of his political career, honestly.
Yeah.
I've heard there's some like interesting, I don't know anything about Randy Fine. Do you know anything about him?
Well, I mean, the one research I have been doing is like mostly been looking at the attack hats between Josh Wells and Randy Fine.
Yeah. Anything good from that? I didn't really get into those.
Yeah, I got into that just today. I was like watching a bunch of YouTube videos just back and forth of like what their ads are. But it seems like there's some like some hot takes or some interesting stuff. Yeah. From both sides, but mostly from Randy. There's like some interesting like stuff he did in his past that like people are like pointing out.
Oh,
yeah, thanks. Controversies.
Yeah, that's one of those like he's a little sketchy, but he is red, so he's better than the blue side. So it's kind of like a pick your poison kind of situation.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say pick your poison, but it's like there's really bad, and then there's bad. Right?
Yeah. The lesser of two evils.
Right. Yeah, the lesser of two evils, essentially. So, dude, for anyone left wing listening to this episode, dude, just go ahead and stop now. Nah, that's all right. I was honest about my political bias, so all right.
Yeah, I'm Democrat. I'm just kidding.
Full blown lib.
Dude, I remember when we had our small group at church, and straight up, I just like said that to the whole group, and all of our guys were like, "No, you can't be.
You can't be a Democrat."
All our boys.
Have you seen that video of? There's like these 2 little kids that are like playing with each other, and they're like clearly Southern, and then one of them calls the other a Democrat, and then the kid goes to his mom or whatever, and he's like, he called me a Democrat. And I was like, oh my gosh,
that's wild.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh. All right. So, okay, sorry. My notes are kind of all over the place, so I'm kind of trying to track. All right. So Randy Fine's great, whatever, but we're not voting in that election. So let's jump to the 19th Florida Senate district race, or Republican primary, rather. So we got 4 candidates that are running for the Republican primary. So we have Mark Leitner III, Debbie Mayfield, Tim Thomas, and Marcy. I don't know if it's Marcy or Marshy, but I think it's Marcy. So I'm going to say Marcy Adkins. So we got 4 of them. And then all Republican, obviously, on paper. So just like a little bio of each one. Adkins, she's 65 years old, PhD in economics from UF, has previous experience in local politics, lived in Brevard County for 60 years, married to a Vietnam vet, conservative Christian, lives in Grant Valcaria, retired consulting firm owner. She did run against Randy Fine in the Republican primary for the Florida House in 2020. Also, just shout out to Florida Today, because that's where like all this information came from. So, and some from their like each respective campaign page. Mark Leitner III, he's an interesting candidate because he's young. He's 24, so he's younger than us.
Dang.
So he graduated with his BA in business from University of North Florida. Born and raised in Brevard, so that's a big part of his campaign. He's Catholic. He's married. Has a kid. Looks good on the traditional conservative side.
Yeah.
He works in Cocoa as a sales rep for a company that sells heavy equipment, and he has no prior experience in public office or local politics, which makes sense. He's young, so that makes a lot of sense.
Sort of like a wild card right there.
A little bit. And then Tim Thomas, so he's 60. He got a BA in government. I think it was from Auburn University. I don't remember that for sure. He lives in Melbourne. He's a director of business development for RTV Engineering. No idea what that company is, but I assume an engineering company.
Engineering firm, yeah.
And he was a former member of the Melbourne City Council. So that's cool. So he has experience in local government. And then the real kicker is Debbie Mayfield. She's an interesting one. Have you heard much about Debbie Mayfield? Dude. She's the one that's caused a lot of the drama around this race, which is crazy. So some background on her. She was part of the Florida House of Representatives from 2008 to 2016. So she did 8 years in the House. And then she ran for Florida State Senate in 2016 and then served there from 2016 to 2016 to 2024. And then, is it raining outside? Oh, it was just a car.
Yeah, you did a whole weird loop-de-loop in this big open lot we have.
Awkward. So then she did 8 years in the Senate. Well, technically speaking, or what people expected was that she would be done after that. Yeah. Because Florida is a term limited state. So you can do 2 consecutive 4-year terms and then you're done, right? So she did 8 years in the House and then 8 years in the Senate, and then people are like, okay, well, she's done because she's gonna be term limited out. Well, there's a loophole in that if you can go back to the seat in which you filled previously, if it's not consecutive. So I think it's not like in your lifetime if you've run consecutive, served a certain number of years and you can't go back. It's no, if there's a gap in between, then you can go back. So she ran for the Florida State House again in 2024 and won that seat. Crazy. And then now, since Randy Fine's leaving the Senate, she wants to go back to the Senate and fill his spot. But people, I think Ron DeSantis said that no, you can't do that because you just got out of the Senate. And then, she was, there's some entity at the state level that determines who's qualified to be on a ballot. And she originally was kicked off of the ballot, considered disqualified for the ballot, but then she sued and went straight to the Florida Supreme Court, and then they ruled that she is qualified because it's been since November since she's been in the Senate. Yeah. And so it's it's not consecutive because there's been a time gap in between those terms. So that's a really weird loophole. That's worse than the House loophole that now she's going back to the Senate not even a year after she left. Oh my gosh.
It's a law that should be probably fixed up here.
Yeah. So what's interesting about that is that there's if you go into the top issues of each candidate, what was I saying? Oh, okay. Sorry. I totally lost my train of thought. Term limits is a big issue for a lot of the candidates because they've seen all this that's happened with Debbie Mayfield, and they're no, that's not right. That's not right. So
So like all three of them is like, yeah, we want to make sure term limits are enforced.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Debbie's like, no, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, she actually didn't say anything about term limits in her top issues, as far as I'm aware, which is hilarious. So she's 68. So she was a banker previously. She went to the Florida School of Banking. Extensive experience in state level politics.
What bank she work at?
No idea. Couldn't tell you.
The Space Coast.
Yeah, maybe the Space Coast Bank. She's from India Atlantic. Let's see. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have regarding her bio. I'm sure there's more information, but I just didn't take some notes on it. So, so let's go into like the top issues for each person, and then we can kind of discuss it. So, starting with Marcy Atkins. So her top issues are political action committees, which are PACs, preservation of state parks, term limits, which in one of her responses, she referenced a bill from Senator Blaise Agnolia, which I don't really know what that bill is. I probably should have looked into it, but I didn't. But it was something about term limits being enacted for everyone elected after 2026 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I just read that from a short blur. But if that is the case, that's like, well, that's pretty sketchy. So basically, all of you guys are fine, except for everyone elected after 2026. It's like, okay.
So what's his grandfather business here?
Yeah, exactly. I smell a little corruption going on. So she wants a clear amendment to the Florida Constitution for term limits. And then she was talking about the influence of political action committees in Tallahassee. And then there's some more on her website. Let me pull that up. So, yeah, big on term limits, big on Second Amendment. She says Florida should be an open carry state. Okay, I can get behind that.
Are we already constitutional carry here?
We are constitutional carry, which is recent as of last year.
So it's concealed carry.
But it's concealed carry, yep. So so you can't open carry. And that's actually like a big issue if you open carry.
But like, to be honest, like, is it even worth open carry? Just to make yourself a target?
I mean, personally, I would prefer open carry because one, there's like less stringency on carrying a firearm, you know. I would also like to know who's carrying a gun around me, you know, because otherwise everyone's like, you know, well, he could be carrying a gun or not carrying a gun. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I think I've heard it before where like you can open carry, but if you want to concealed carry, you need a license for that.
Yeah, but I don't think we need a license anymore, do we?
No, you don't. Yeah. No, even though I have one. I got one before the constitutional carry law passed.
I just waited for that. I was like, oh, I'll just wait.
I didn't know it was a thing until I saw a headline about it, and I was like, oh, okay.
I mean, you still got good classes for it. It's good to...
Yeah. It was good to like hear the laws around it.
Yeah.
So she's a big proponent of Doge for Florida. So Department of Government Efficiency, just like implementing kind of like a pseudo Doge at the state level for Florida.
I love how that's the name. It's such a meme.
And then like I said, she wants to protect state parks, and then she cares about family values. So no medical intervention for sex changes for minors. And no biological males in women's sports. So kind of pretty traditional. Pretty
like the basic like Republican talking points.
Yeah, very not shocking Republican talking points for sure. And then she's also a Christian. Mm-hmm. So she claims conservative Christian. And
does she list any denomination she goes to, or?
I did not see any of that. No.
It's interesting when it comes to like Protestant Christians in politics. They don't really list a denomination. at times.
Yeah, there is one guy. So actually, I'll jump to Tim Thomas. So he said that he is a United Methodist, very involved in the United Methodist Church in Suntree. Been there a long time, I guess. Oh wait, was it him? Actually, that may have been. I think I'm getting my names mixed up now. Oh, that was Bob White. So he's running to fill Debbie Mayfield's seat. Yeah. So I was reading him most recently. So he's very involved in the Suntree United Methodist Church. I don't know about Tim Thomas, but so the next one that was interesting is Mark Leitner, which I mentioned. So he is the younger guy, but he's conservative Christian, but he's Catholic. So he's kind of has like a different bent towards the faith side. His top issues are like protecting gun rights. So he's also a proponent of open carry in Florida. Wants to help reduce inflation. Part of that being cutting regulation and promoting increased competition in the insurance industry. So that I thought was interesting because like the insurance industry in Florida is like really screwed up from what I've heard. I mean, I don't own a home, so I don't have to deal with like all the home insurance issues, but
yeah, I think one of the main issues is a lot of insurance companies are dropping policies. Like, all the time,
pulling out of Florida altogether, and I mean, even the auto insurance in Florida is like really expensive.
Yeah.
So he wants to fight political corruption. He wants to empower younger Floridians by promoting trade schools and entrepreneurship and civic engagement. So I thought that was interesting because, you know, I think trade schools definitely important in this because we see a lot of like young people moving away from like the traditional education path of like going to college for 4 years and all of that. And kind of maybe wanting to go the more trade school route, which I think is good.
Which I can get behind. I mean, even just like one of our colleges here, Eastern Florida, they're starting to have a lot more programs that are like trade school programs.
Yeah.
Mostly the engineering field, like to be a technician, but yeah.
Well, we do have a lot of technician jobs around here, so that makes sense. But apparently he said that he wasn't planning on running in this election, but like someone put the idea in his head and he said he prayed about it and he was like, you know what, if you want change, you got to be the change.
Yeah.
And he said that he saw like the whole Debbie Mayfield scandal and he was like, no, we can't.
He's like, sees the wisdom.
Yeah,
like,
you gotta do something. One of the things he has on his website, he said, I have no shady past. I was like, nice, that's funny. Hasn't been alive long enough to have a shady past.
I mean, he's a young guy, and I would be interested to be voting for him just to get more younger blood into politics, especially when it comes to local stuff.
Yeah.
And like he has like all the conservative talking points, but like you're pointing out, it's like what he's focusing on is something that's just like not really like conservative or Democrat. It's just like, what can we do to improve this area?
Yeah. I mean, 2A stuff, that's definitely conservative.
Yeah.
But
I'm talking about the trade school stuff.
Yeah. That's not like a... Yeah, I mean, it kind of could be in the sense that like blue collar workers tend to drift more towards republicanism right now just because of Donald Trump. But in terms of like promoting a trade school, that is inherently not a like bipartisan issue.
Yeah, like I know Democrats and Republicans all want more jobs for everybody.
Right, exactly. All right, so then there's Debbie Mayfield. So her top issues are affordable housing, which makes sense. Housing prices in Florida are kind of crazy. Property insurance rates. So that kind of goes into the insurance issues we were talking about. She wants to, quote, monitor policies to ensure stable insurance markets. She wants to improve infrastructure, which makes sense. And then also improve like utilities and stuff. So one thing she said, at least according to Florida Today, was she wanted to fund a 5-year program with the Florida Department of Transportation and a 5-year plan for replacement and repair of aging underground utilities. And I was like, I read that and I was like, why does that take 5 years?
Yeah.
Like, I get they're big projects, but like, why does it have to be like 5 years, 5 years? Like, that's just, I don't know.
She wants to stay in.
Man, I mean, I'm sure she does.
It's way past 4 years. She's got to be like in the election year, be like, hey, this program's been working. You got to rehire me so I can keep it going.
She probably wants to jump up to like U.S. Congress though, or Senate or something. But anyways, so different story. I thought that was kind of weird. The 5 years thing came twice. And then the other individual running is Tim Thomas. So his top issues are legal immigration. So he wants to use the Florida National Guard to reinforce border security. Makes sense. Florida has a decent amount of illegal immigration just from the Caribbean and stuff. And then let's see, he wants to make sure that local and state law enforcement is trained up and equipped to help with U.S. immigration, which I know is like a big issue and talking point for DeSantis too, with the new Trump administration. Although one thing he did though, I thought was a little weird, is he was like trying to tie illegal immigration and like the national security risk of illegal immigration with like the Space Coast and space dominance. I was very confused about that. Let me see if I can pull up the quote or like what he said, and according to Florida Today. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. I'll try to. Nope, I might be cooked. Okay, I have way too many tabs open, so I can't find it. But anyway, so he was like, Florida is the Space Coast, like wants, space dominance, and he was like tying the national security risk of illegal immigration to that, and I was like, yeah, I'm not really seeing the connection in there, really, but I mean, maybe if you're talking about like China, like illegally immigrating to the Space Coast and stuff and like infiltrating SpaceX and Blue Origin or something.
Yeah, but
I don't know. This seems like kind of a reach. Like maybe he was like trying to take this, buzzword topic and then connect it to like a local issue or something. I don't know.
this is just strange, but yeah.
Yeah. But he also supports term limits, which makes sense. He's also wants to support veterans in the community. So he's also a disabled veteran. Wants to work with state and federal level veterans organizations to pursue and provide resources to veterans, specifically in the areas of combat veteran suicide and homelessness. So, very important ambitions there for sure. So anyway, so those are the 4 candidates that are running for the Republican primary. But I mean, out of those 4, like, do any of them jump out to you, or like anything notable?
Honestly, notable is it's funny that 3 of them are literally like in there against one with term limits. It's like, it makes you think like, if that's the case, probably is a good idea to go for the one of those 3 instead of the one that's like opposite.
Yeah, I do think that like there's definitely a lot of red flags around Debbie Mayfield and like a lot of controversy around her that isn't so great,
The fact that you have one guy say the reason why he's jumping into politics was because he saw the controversy,
Government corruption
of that one of Debbie. So it's like kind of just raise some red flags. You're like, huh, makes you think. Like, I think out of all the three, like I'm not even vote for Debbie, but probably out of all the three is the young guy. I forgot his name again.
Mark Leitner.
Yeah, Mark Leitner.
So him being young doesn't like throw you off at all?
Honestly, no, because I want some like young guys to first off, like it's less corruption involved because honestly they don't have anybody in there to be like tied with.
Yeah,
because a lot of corruption happens. It takes two. You have two people tied to each other doing shady stuff.
Yeah,
in politics. So it's a completely.
There is one thing to note, though. I was thinking about is that like this is a primary, right? So this isn't even the general election.
Yeah.
So like we also have to consider someone that we think is actually going to win against the Democrat candidate in the general election.
So my question is what does the area look like? Is it more red or is it more like?
You know, I haven't looked at the political map.
Because, like, I would say if it's like staunch red, then it'll be good to take that risk.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's central and southern Brevard, so.
Especially Brevard, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's primarily Brevard County, so it would. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
it would lean red, regardless of who the candidate is.
And I think a lot of young voters would want someone young too.
Although, one thing to note is that this is like kind of a sneaky election and it's not a big election.
Oh, that's true.
So, you know, it kind of depends on like your voter turnout isn't going to be like a typical election.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're probably going to get like older people. I would guess like older demographics voting, which generally tend to lean red. So, I mean, it's probably, I mean, I think it's probably going to be pretty similar to like the 2024 general election.
Yeah.
Where it's just like very red. Yeah, I mean, I do have some reservations about like him being young. And not to say that I don't think that he should, it's not that I think he shouldn't run for politics. I just don't know that the Florida Senate is the right place to start. So I think it would like, might make more sense if he ran for like
a councilman here in Melbourne or something like that.
Yeah, maybe a city councilman seat, or you know, maybe even the Florida State House of Representatives, and then kind of like work your way up from there. It's kind of, I don't know. It feels weird because I'm 25, so it's not like I'm much older than this guy.
I'm 26.
Yeah, it's, you know. And I do like the idea of having like someone young in politics. But yeah, I just don't know that state Senate is the place to start for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. But yeah.
But I mean, on paper, like he looks good.
Yeah.
Like I like his issues I think are relevant. I you know, align with what where he falls on issues, at least from what I've read. You know, he's Catholic, he's married and has a kid. So, you know, and he's young. So that's, you know, he's clearly has traditional conservative beliefs.
Yeah.
So, you know, on paper, I think he's interesting for sure. He's just like maybe a bit inexperienced. That's all.
Yeah.
The other one that jumped out to me personally, I don't know, Tim Thomas didn't really stand out to me much. I mean, he's, you know, for whatever reason, if he's ever listening to this podcast, like, thank you for your service. But, you know,
yeah.
Outside of that, he just didn't really jump out to me in any way. I mean, illegal immigration is important for sure, but I see that more as like a federal level issue, I guess.
Yeah, because I think like Florida's like already on lock of like those type of laws. Like it's not really like a local issue.
Yeah.
Like again, like, you know, a lot of these people, they have like the basic like conservative talking points, but when it comes to local things, I want to see more like different. I don't want to say extravagant is the right word to say, but like different ideas that's like not common. Like, I don't want to be seeing these ideas on Fox News. I'd rather see like local stuff that like
Right. Things that matter at a local level. Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Florida.
Right. So yeah, I think the one that stood out to me the most was Marcy Atkins, Dr. Marcy Atkins. Because, you know, she's older. She's been involved in like local politics for a while. She's lived in Brevard County for a long time. You know, on paper, she looks good in terms of her political leanings and the issues she cares about. So my guess, if I had to guess on who was going to win the primary, I would say probably her.
Probably.
I think mostly just, I mean, unless there's something about Tim Thomas that I'm just like totally missing. But I don't know. I just didn't really find anything that really stood out to me. And the Debbie Mayfield has a bunch of controversy around her. So I would be pretty surprised if she won. Granted, I don't know a ton about her outside of what I've read in preparation for this. But, you know, in my few Google searches, it did not look good. I'll just say that. And then Mark, he looks good on paper, but he's young and inexperienced. So I think that'll kind of pull like a lot of older people away from voting for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would probably guess Marcy is gonna win the primary. So anyways, that's my guess. And then we won't jump into the Florida House primary, but yeah, there's Terry Cronin, Brian Hodgers, and Bob White. They're all three the ones that are running for that Republican primary. One thing that I did think was funny though is that Bob White was apparently arrested in 2001 for, quote, one count of forgery / fraud for making a false statement on a real estate document. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound good.
Dang. And arrested for that too. So it makes you wonder, like, what was the actual forgery?
Yeah, I mean, he said he was involved in like custom home building before or something, and there's something with that, and eventually the charge got dropped or whatever. But he was like, man, they're really desperate if they're pulling stuff like that out from 2001. And I was like, well, you know, it is relevant.
Yeah.
If you're getting arrested, that's kind of, I feel like that's of concern for a voter. So
that's permanent on your record when you get arrested.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you get your records expunged or something. But yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's all I got, honestly. But I just wanted to talk about all that stuff because I read a bunch and I think it's interesting.
So. No, it is interesting. And then I know a lot of our viewers are people who live here. I don't imagine anybody outside our friend groups that listen to this right now.
Yeah.
But no, it's important just to get into local politics like you showed. Like, it's not that hard. You
got to read.
Yeah, just got to read.
Yeah. What's hard for me is that I like podcasts. So I get a lot of my news from podcasts and stuff. And
But you mostly get national stuff.
Yeah, so most of the time that's like national news. It's not really local news. Mm-hmm. So you got to like read articles and stuff if you're gonna get local news, which I don't read news that much.
Yeah,
so
you gotta just do a little more digging. But like that's something we should. If you went to college, like that's something you should be taught to do. Is just learn how to do research and like really dig into articles or dig into different areas of sources.
Yeah.
Something we all tend to like do during college, and then we just forget about it.
Yeah. It's also easy to just like, it just doesn't feel as important to me. I mean, for me personally, like it's not like sexy politics, you know, we're not talking about, you know, suing the Biden administration over illegal immigration or, you know, Trump's 25% tariffs on, you know, the European Union and Canada and stuff, which is actually coming up on April 2nd. So stay tuned with that.
Oh yeah, I forgot he's supposed to reverse the second.
That'll be interesting for sure. Another tidbit of political news for everyone. But But anyways, yeah, like local politics isn't like that, right? I feel like this was kind of like a little more on the interesting side just because of all the controversy around Mayfield. But, you know, most of the time it's like, you know, budgeting for paving new streets and like, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah. But I think it's all important, you know.
I mean, it builds up. It's like, you know, it's important to make sure you're in local politics because like that affects your daily lives, and like that's the more you're going to affect change. You're going to see change more often with local politics than you're going to see change with like federal politics. I think.
Yeah.
In terms of like actually seeing it, like with local politics, you're going to see roads fixed and stuff like that.
Yeah, like there's a more personal, direct impact.
Yeah.
And there's a shorter timeline on it.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't really see the effect. Well, I do, but you know, someone that doesn't work in the defense industry doesn't see the impact of cuts to the DoD budget.
Yeah.
You know, which happens at the national level. Of course, I work in the defense contracting world, so I do see the effects of that somewhat. But yeah, it doesn't affect me as much as, you know, the street with potholes over there, or, you know, building a new community center or something like that. So,
yeah.
Which I mean, I think that's the significance of federalism, right? Is what and the significance of like being a member of a community is actually participating in the local politics and the local happenings of that community, which I'm guilty of not doing. I mean, I'm actually interested in like going to like, you know, city council meetings in West Melbourne and stuff like that if I could find the time to do it.
Dude, let me know when. Let's take a trip there.
Dude,
we'll bring our microphones.
Yeah, so on that note, the Smithy is actually going to rebrand into a political news podcasting.
Hey everyone, I'm on the scene.
Start interviewing people.
Yeah.
You know what would be really funny though? Is if Mark Leitner does win this primary, I should send him an email and be like, hey, you want to be on our podcast?
You'll be our
that we have like 20 people listen to.
But yeah, no, like this was a good topic. I mean, it was just any topic is good. Just a conversation at the end, and that's what we'll have to do for this podcast. But just to tie it back to like Christianity, the most important thing you showed is like research and making sure we're just involved. Don't just blindly vote R or D or red or blue.
Yeah, definitely don't do that.
Yeah, do your research. Actually, like look into people and see exactly what they're all about. Like it's good to know exactly like what people stand for, because you can accidentally pick someone who's R and you find out like, oh my goodness, they're not the good fit. They're not a good leader or something like that.
Yeah, and just to broaden it, I think kind of on the note of like being a member of the community, I was reminded of the verse earlier today when I was thinking of, you know, I think it was when Paul says, you know, being in the world but not of the world. So like we as believers still have a responsibility to like interact with and like participate in the cultural conversation. You know, we're not necessarily to partake in culture per se, but we're supposed to influence and be a part of culture and not isolate ourselves from what's happening. And part of that is being involved in your local community.
Yep.
And so, you know, I think again, we have the responsibility of being educated, and that's just a part of also being involved in a local community. There's also, you know, serving or volunteering in different areas and stuff like that, which personally I could do a better job in. I've done a little bit, but not, you know, as much as I could be. And so anyways, yeah, I think it was thanks for letting me ramble. I know it was like kind of a monologue a little bit, but you know, it's fun, and hopefully you guys listening enjoyed it as well, and maybe got a little more information. And just a reminder, the election is April 1st, so hopefully we can get this episode out before then, and you listen to it before then. But if not, there is still also the June 10th general election, which I'm sure we'll get a ballot to vote in for as well. So
exactly.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up. And
I think one more thing we should talk about is our new idea of like our next episodes are.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you wanna hit on that?
So as we've been going through these 4 different episodes, and we're very thankful for whoever is listening. Like we always say, this is just a passion project between both of us. We just, in the first episode, we want to create something. Basically, because we listen to a lot of content, we want to start creating that content too, and really use this channel to both just talk about our interests back and forth. And you can see we ramble on a lot of things, including engineering, which I've gotten comments from some people.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So you get
not sorry.
Yeah, we get super technical for no reason. We just it's what our job is.
Well, it's what I spend 40 hours a week on, and you spend 80 hours a week on.
But yeah, so like again, we love doing this, and we hope to keep doing this going on forever. Honestly, that's like our main goal. But we want to start actually changing it up. Where we've been doing a 2-week schedule, and it's mostly been topical. But we want to start putting actual Bible studies in there. So it'll be like every month we have 2 episodes come out. One episode will be a topical, and one will be a chapter of a book we're going through.
Yep. Yeah. So just picking. So I think you mentioned Romans. I think I'm cool with doing Romans. I think that's a great book to start in. And so next episode in 2 weeks, we'll cover Romans 1 and just like basically just a Bible study, and then just recording our conversation.
Exactly.
And so yeah, I think that'll be really good. And part of the motivation of this podcast is to share the gospel and to kind of expand on Christian ideas and Christian topics that are discussed in church and in church communities, but perhaps could be, you could go into more deeply in long form conversation. And so I think this Bible study will be really helpful for that. And maybe one day we'll do a podcast every week. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for now, anyways, yeah, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you guys.
Peace.
Peace.